Let's start with big idea number 1. Vaccination choice is a human right. Our first platform speaker is Mary Holland. Woo! Mary is a co-founder of the Center for Personal Rights. She is an attorney and teaches at New York University Law School. Mary has deep background and experience in human rights and taught international human rights advocacy at Columbia Law School. Let's give a big hand for Mary Holland.
Thank you all so much for coming. So my topic is vaccination choice is a fundamental human right, and I invite you to say it with me. Vaccination is a fundamental human right. So let's take that apart. Fundamental means essential, basic, inalienable. A human right is something that people and nations acknowledge simply by virtue of the fact that we're human. We don't have to be a particular age, a particular gender, a particular nationality or class to claim our human rights. And a right is a claim that we can enforce against governments and other people. So we assert here today that we have inalienable claims within society simply because we are human to decide when and whether to vaccinate ourselves and our children. So why is this choice so fundamental? Because vaccination decisions always, is there anything we can do about the sound? Oh, okay, sorry. Why is it so fundamental? Because vaccination decisions always implicate our most precious rights, our rights to life, liberty, and security of person. Our most basic human rights, including religious law, the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, the U.S. Constitution, and international laws that all countries must obey, these laws protect inherent human dignity and the equal and inalienable rights of all members of the human family. The world of nations explicitly embraced human rights after World War II and the Holocaust when they recognized that it would be impossible to secure a peaceful, just world without universal human rights. The Nuremberg Code, adopted in the wake of the horror of Nazi medical abuses, prohibits experimentation on human subjects without free and informed consent. Universal human rights norms today reject many institutions of the past: slavery, genocide, war crimes, piracy, torture, and discrimination based on race and gender, to name a few. Today, we also reject medical experimentation on human subjects without informed consent. Increasingly, human rights norms recognize that all healthcare decisions must be based on free and informed consent. It's time that the laws of the world recognize that vaccination choice is a human right. It's an undisputed scientific fact that vaccines in their current state of development will kill and injure certain vulnerable people whom we can't identify and screen out in advance. Vaccines under U.S. law are correctly considered today unavoidably unsafe. Vaccine mandates that protect the majority while sacrificing the unknown and unknowing few are immoral. This utilitarian practice can only be justified if it's based on free and informed consent. So, do we have free and informed consent today? No, we don't. There can be no free consent when a child cannot attend school or an adult cannot keep a job without fulfilling a vaccine mandate. The vaccine information sheets that healthcare workers are required to provide are grossly incomplete and often not given at all. Vaccine manufacturers in this country are legally free of almost all corporate accountability for their unavoidably unsafe products. There is no free and informed consent to vaccination, and this violates our rights to life, liberty, and security of person. So where does this all come from? It comes from a 1905 Supreme Court decision called Jacobson versus Massachusetts. In that case, the Supreme Court upheld Massachusetts' right to require adults to be vaccinated during a smallpox epidemic. And if they failed to comply, they had to pay a fine of $5. The court found Massachusetts' regulation reasonable for protecting public health, but it took pains to point out that its decision would not justify regulations so arbitrary and oppressive that they would be cruel and inhuman to the last degree. In other words, the court suggested that if mandates were oppressive and unreasonable, courts could step in. Jacobson, justifying reasonable use of a state's police power, is now the basis for condoning mandates for up to 69 doses of 16 vaccines for children in the absence of epidemics, at the cost of public school attendance, based on inadequate and incomplete science, with significant evidence of undue corporate influence. My guess is that if Mr. Jacobson were to bring a case today on behalf of his child in Massachusetts before the same court we had in 1905, he, not Massachusetts, would win. The court would decide that the state's regulations were oppressive, unreasonable, and disproportionate to the public health need. Jacobson versus Massachusetts does not justify today's compulsory vaccination program. Since Jacobson, 1905, the world has embraced women's right to vote, the Nuremberg Code, free and informed consent, medical autonomy, the human rights revolution, and public health revolutions of sanitation, hygiene, and antibiotics. A thorough reconsideration of compulsory vaccination mandates is long overdue, based on human rights and the language of the Jacobson decision itself. We must win the right to philosophical exemptions or the right to just say no to vaccination mandates in every state is a first step. Yay. Okay, so Martin Luther King Jr. said, "The arc of the universe is long, but it bends towards justice." It is now time for us to bend the arc towards the human right of vaccination choice. Thank you.